So you will all have seen the lineup. So my name's Wright. I've travelled down from York St John University today, and I will be chairing Student Congress. So I'm going to stay up here and I will quickly introduce people as they come and go off of the stage, and I've got a quick presentation for you myself. But in a little bit more detail, we've got lots and lots of different topics here for you. So there should be something for everybody in the room, regardless of the stage that you are at. So there may be some people that haven't even started, that haven't got to their welcome weeks yet. You might be thinking of going into first year, might be have completed a placement already and thinking about careers. So there's something very different for everybody joining us today. And we've got brilliant people that have come, so huge thanks to everybody that has come down and travelled and disrupted their work schedules or study schedules to come and help us with this congress today. So I believe that the very first person that we have, so it turns out that the back doesn't back. So it's a forward and not a back for the speakers that are here. So sorry, I'm confusing you now. So, yeah, as you can see, this is what you will have seen already about Student Congress. Nice mix of people talking about all sorts of different elements of today and about being a biomedical scientist. We do have different breaks, a couple of breaks I've put in. We've got 14:30 to 1500, and then again at 3:45 we've got a shorter break. So when we stop presenting here, we'll do a quick 5 minutes so you can ask questions of the people that have already done their talking, and then we have a different group that are going to pop up onto stage for 10 minutes to talk about interviews and good practice during interviews, so they're going to be really interesting to listen to too. And then we'll have another 10 minutes before we get going again. Please feel free to make yourself comfortable, get drinks, nip to the toilet facilities, and come and speak to us as well. We will keep going with more talks, another break. Again, please feel free to come round and talk to us, and we will be finishing then at around 4:45. So it will just be a quick thank you from me at that stage. And if you need to be dashing off for trains, planes and automobiles, please come and go as you need to. But stay around and talk to those of us who may be left behind. But for now, I am going to pass you over, and it is Vicky.
This is a bit of a slow.
It is. Challenge more.
Yes, challenge accepted. Oh, hello everybody. So I'm Vicky Bradley. I'm Associate Professor. It says Reader up there, that's my title, no one understands it. I'm Associate Professor at Cardiff Metropolitan University. I'm also a biomedical scientist. I practiced for 25 years before moving to the dark side of academia. Obviously, I've done that for 10 years now, and obviously I do not look old enough to have done that, do I? So, as students, you're just beginning on your journey as a biomedical scientist. The world is your oyster. I had a bit of a shaky start to my career as a biomedical scientist. I failed, bombed my A-levels first time around. And then I got to do work experience in the path lab in the local hospital, but then nearly missed the job advert for being a trainee. But anyway, here I am, over 30 years later, still a biomedical scientist. I've had an amazing career. I see some mad cases and patient samples over the years. I've worked with some inspiring and somewhat quirky mentors as well. And I am somewhat jealous that you've got all of this to come. But anyway, I'm here to talk to you about the IBMS and the HCPC. There we go, it does work. Okay, so we'll start with who are the IBMS. So the Institute of Biomedical Scientists, they are the professional body for scientists, support staff and students who work in biomedical science in the UK. They are the voice of our profession. They champion the profession, they set standards, and they also support their members. They support the accredited degree programmes that you're all on by setting quality standards and also supporting the taught curriculum. And this ensures that graduates meet professional standards for biomedical scientists, and the IBMS accreditation demonstrates that there is alignment with the QAA benchmark statements and the HCPC standards for training and education. They support members in practice through their training, education, continuous professional development and also qualifications. And this supports members from entry level through to senior roles. And it equips them with the knowledge and skills they need to practice as biomedical scientists. They're approved by the HCPC to deliver 4 routes to registration as a biomedical scientist in the UK. The IBMS works to ensure that biomedical science is recognised as a vital part of healthcare, and that practitioners are well trained and supported, and the public understands the crucial role that we play in their healthcare and their well-being. So they do this through education and professional development opportunities, so qualifications, continuing professional development, which once you're on the register you'll all have to do. Accreditation of the degree programmes and also supporting resources. So through professional recognition and support, they work with the likes of the Science Council Register, so you can become a chartered scientist as you progress through your careers. There's also a number of membership benefits. There's also advocacy and public engagement, so raising awareness with the general public of our role as biomedical scientists. And in Wales, because that's where I work, we do this bilingually as well, so it's in English and Cymraeg. And our profession is also promoted through events, such as this biennial conference, which is one of the world's premier biomedical science events. There are over 20,000 IBMS members, and this includes support staff, scientists, trainees, apprentices and students, and they're located in 74 countries around the world. And the IBMS are dedicated to the promotion and delivery of excellence in biomedical science and providing the highest standards of service to patients and the public. And they've been in operation for over 100 years now. They were formed in 1912. So the IBMS has a range of membership levels. For students, there is e-student membership, which anyone studying an undergraduate or postgraduate biomedical science degree accredited by the IBMS can apply for. Associate membership is available to anyone who has GCSEs or a non-honours degree. And then to become a licentiate, you need to be HCPC registered as a biomedical scientist and also have a minimum of 1 year's professional experience. After that, there's member. So to become a member, you can undertake one of the IBMS specialist qualifications to develop your practice as a biomedical scientist. There are comparable professional qualifications as the BBTS and transfusion, or you could undertake a master's. And then there's fellowship. So there's a range of advanced practice IBMS qualifications you can complete to become a fellow, or you must have a doctorate level qualification, and there's also an experiential route. So there's lots of different levels of membership as you progress through your careers. So e-student membership is what you'll be looking at, and for a one-off fee of only £13, not many trips to Costa for 13 quid, you can have membership from now until the end of next year, so about 15 months of membership. And that membership will keep you informed about your profession, support you with your studies, and also save you money through the addition scheme. The link on screen now and the QR code will take you straight to the application page, and once you've gone through the process of applying, you'll have access to your online account by the next working day. In terms of benefits, the student membership helps you stay informed. You've got free access to all of the IBMS online publications. You get support with your studies and career development. Save money with the IBMS Edition scheme on shopping, travel, leisure and more. If you're going round the conference later, there's 20% off Oxford University Press textbooks. So they're the ones that are associated with the accredited biomedical science courses. You can also join events. So in November, there's Biomedical Scientists Live. It's like a mini congress. So you get to join that. That's on the 26th of November. There's access to awards and funding. The top performing student at every accredited university is awarded the IBMS President's Prize if they're a student member. And there's a small monetary token associated with that, but it looks really good on your CV. You'll also be showing your commitment to the profession, because all members have to abide by the IBMS Code of Conduct, demonstrating professionalism and also the ethical standards associated with being a member. So we need to consider the HCPC, so Health and Care Professions Council. So they are the regulatory body for 15 health-related professions within the UK. So arts therapists, biomedical scientists, us, occupational therapists, paramedics and speech and language therapists are just some examples of the HCPC registrants. So they set the standards for professional education, training and practice, and also conduct, performance and ethics and continuing professional development. Once you're on the register, you need to demonstrate that you're undertaking CPD, and they do audit it as well. I've been audited twice, look at me. The approved programmes with professionals must complete to register with them, and also keep a register of professionals, which are known as registrants. And you can go on their website and look anyone up. You can go and look me up if you like, I'm on there. And to practice as a biomedical scientist, you must be on that register because the title biomedical scientist is protected under law. They also take action when people don't meet their standards. And that is in order to protect service users and members of the public from our practice. So IBMS accreditation ensures that the degree you're undertaking meets the HCPC standards of education and training for biomedical scientists, that there's an appropriate focus on practical skills and that the curriculum reflects the current needs and practices within the field. Provides assurances to you as students and employers and the public that the degree meets the required knowledge and skills. Also demonstrates that it contains the subject knowledge for biomedical scientists, which is based on the QAA benchmark statements for biomedical sciences. And that describes the nature of study and academic standards expected of graduates from these subject areas. And it shows what graduates might reasonably be expected to know, do and understand at the end of those studies. It's not just about the degree. Once you've completed your degree, you also need to complete your clinical training, and that's through the IBMS registration training portfolio. Once you've completed both the accredited degree programme and the registration training portfolio, you're issued by the IBMS with what's called the Certificate of Competence. That enables you to register with the HCPC as a biomedical scientist because it demonstrates that you meet the standards of proficiency set by the HCPC for biomedical scientists. There are 4 tracks or routes to registration as a HCPC registered biomedical scientist, and this infograph gives us an overview of the 4 different tracks that ultimately lead to that HCPC registration. And the IBMS have got a really good range of videos that are available on their website and through their YouTube channel, which go through the 4 tracks of registration. Track 1, this is the simplest way to become HCPC registered as a biomedical scientist. So this is where you've got an IBMS accredited biomedical or healthcare science, life sciences degree or apprenticeship. This is accredited and it demonstrates it covers the key clinical laboratory specialities. And there are 65 universities across the UK that offer IBMS accredited degrees. And choosing one with a placement as in a clinical laboratory where you would complete the IBMS registration training portfolio provides you with the fastest route to registration. The IBMS website has a directory of all of the degrees which are accredited, and students on these programmes provided with the certificate of competence as they graduate. So they graduate with their degree and the certificate of competence, so then they can register with the HCPC straight away. Track 2. If you're a graduate of an accredited IBMS degree but you haven't done a clinical placement and done the registration portfolio, you're still at a distinct advantage to those graduating from non-accredited degrees, because you've demonstrated you've met the HCPC standards of training and education, but you still need to do the clinical training. So you'd have to look for a trainee's post in an IBMS approved training laboratory. So you need to have a trainee's post so that you can do the registration training portfolio to gain the certificate of competence. The trainee's posts are highly competitive across the UK, so you need to make yourself stand out, and joining the IBMS, becoming a new student membership will help you understand how you could do that best. You can also look for support worker roles, so medical laboratory assistants, biomedical support workers, associate practitioners. They can be a foot in the door, and lots of laboratories support people in support roles to go through the registration training portfolio. So joining as a student member of the IBMS will give you lots of access to different seminars, workshops and advice on their website to be able to help you stand out from the crowd when you apply for a trainee's post. Track 3, this is for individuals who graduate with a non-IBMS accredited degree. So those who've done a science degree, BSc honours, who then decide they would like to become a biomedical scientist. So for this track, this route to registration, you have to apply to the IBMS to have your degree assessed. They will determine what supplementary education that you need to undertake to meet the HCPC standards of education training and the QAA benchmark statements. So then you do the supplementary education, and then you still have to do the IBMS registration training portfolio. And then you can, once you've got that certificate of competence from that, you can apply for your registration. And then track 4, this is the equivalence route. This is not for students, but we need to talk about it for completeness. And this allows the IBMS to assess an individual's learning that they've gained through academic qualifications and professional practice. It's undertaken through an assessment process reviews the candidate's education and experience, portfolio of evidence of their practice, and concludes with a viva. So there is that option for the equivalence route, but that's not appropriate for you at this stage. You need to make sure that your degree has the right accreditation. It has to be IBMS accreditation. You will see a number of degree programmes that also have accreditation with the Royal Society of Biology. Fantastic accreditation to have, but it does not mean that your degree will provide you with the required knowledge and skills needed to register as a biomedical scientist. If your degree has RSB accreditation but not IBMS accreditation, then you would need to use track 3 for the route to registration. So in other words, you'd have to have your degree assessed, undertake top-up education, and complete the registration training portfolio to gain the certificate of competence. So it's a slightly longer route round. So I've mentioned the registration training portfolio a few times now. So this can be achieved through 3 different pathways. Some students complete the IBMS registration training portfolio during a placement year, so they may take a year out from their studies. Apprentices and healthcare science, life sciences students, they complete the registration training portfolio as part of their degree programme. It's a mandatory element, they can't graduate without it. And then some candidates complete the IBMS registration training portfolio after graduation. So they graduate and then look for a trainee's position. But whichever pathway you take, the laboratory that you undertake the registration portfolio in must have IBMS laboratory training approval. And this ensures that they can support candidates, they have experienced training officers, and that they have a plan in place to get you through the registration training portfolio. So in terms of the assessment of this portfolio, once you've completed the evidence, then you are assessed as a candidate by a representative from the IBMS. And this assessment is called a verification. So this consists of a review of the candidate's evidence, demonstrating how they meet the HCPC standards of proficiency, and a laboratory tour, which is also a bit of a viva as well. They don't just show them around the lab, whether that's in person or online. They ask you questions as you're going around. Once that's finished, the verifier completes a report to confirm whether they feel you've met the standards of proficiency, or they provide advice on what remedial action needs to be taken. If you pass, most people do, the IBMS issue the candidate with the certificate of competence, and once you've got your degree and the certificate of competence, then you apply for your HCPC registration. So, where can your biomedical science degree lead you? Obviously, we're very interested in you becoming biomedical scientists, but there are other lab-based career opportunities. You could become a research assistant, laboratory technician, research scientist. It's also a gateway into pharmaceuticals and biotechnology, and there's always the option to go on and do further study, so a master's or a PhD. You can go into non-laboratory based careers, so medical writer, patent law, clinical trials, medical sales rep. You'll meet a lot of those if you go around the Congress today. Science teacher, and again there's the option to go on to further study which is outside of biomedical science. Although if you do come into biomedical science, there's loads of options to do further study. And whatever you decide to do, we're here as a professional body to support you during your studies. I did say any questions at the end, but you've already said we're not taking them now.
Yeah, if you do have any questions, please keep them in mind, and when we've done the first round of presentations this afternoon, before we do go for our break, we'll do 5 minutes of questions there. So if you've got anything that for Vicky specifically, please just keep them in your mind and we will definitely come back to you. During the break as well, we will all be remaining here. We'll be nipping out for comfort breaks clearly, but we will be around, so please feel free to come and talk to us about anything that you've heard this morning or anything that we don't cover that you would like to hear a little bit more of. So feel free to ask us anything. If we can't answer you, we can certainly direct you to somebody that can. We've got the expertise and the professionals here that will be able to support you today. So thank you very much, Vicky. Right, so I'm back again. Hello again, and for those of you that came in a little bit later, welcome to Student Congress today. So we've had our first speaker with Vicky telling you all about the routes to registration, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a perspective now about preparing for a placement. So I work at York St John University. I'm one of the academics on the team there. Microbiology is my discipline, so obviously when I was walking around today I made sure I picked myself up a little E. coli, because who doesn't want to walk around Congress with an E. coli on your lanyard? That will be going to work with me tomorrow. But I'm the placement coordinator for the university as well. So I introduce the subject of who wants to go on placement. Not everybody that starts a biomedical science degree goes into the biomedical science degree directly. They may have applied for medicine. They may have applied for a whole different collection of degrees that ultimately they didn't end up doing and they came to biomed. Or maybe they liked that it was this very broad biological subject with a lot of laboratory time, but don't necessarily know what a biomedical scientist is. It isn't something that's broadly spoken about in school. I think if we were all to sit here and try and name as many career routes in the sciences that we could think of, we probably wouldn't, we'd be into the tens, we wouldn't be into the hundreds, for example. So we may not have known about biomedical science before we found ourselves on a biomedical science degree. So start talking to first years about the profession, about the routes into getting onto a placement, what that's going to look like, and how to prepare yourself as best as possible for when you start that placement, and then coming back and completing your final year of your degree. So at my university, there are 2 routes that Vicky was describing earlier. So I have the between 2nd and 3rd year of studies, a placement in an NHS laboratory, but we also have apprentices in our course as well. So I don't know, are there any apprentices here today? No, so are you all looking at it as a potential placement option then, all probably between your 2nd and 3rd year of study? So most of what I'm talking about here today, in which case it will be very relevant for yourselves. So it literally is, it's where are you in this process? You've got so many people talking about different things today. Each one of you are going to take your own unique pieces of information back with you about what was relevant and important today. So this is very much focused on you. What did you need to know? Did you need to know about those routes to registration that Vicky was telling us about? Is that piece of information that you want to know? Have you even decided, is it the right thing for me? It means an additional year of study. It's longer until I graduate. There may be mature students in the audience who are thinking, I'm not sure if I want another year on top of the studies that I'm already doing. So there are a lot of different questions going through your minds. What do I want? Is it the right choice for me? Well, you've come to the right place to find out a little bit more. So we have biomedical scientists here in the room. We have the front row here. We've got 3 students, former student in Eloise's case. But Oliver, give everybody a wave for me, Oliver. Oliver has just finished his placement. Marianne, gives a wave. Marianne starts her placement on Monday. And we have Eloise, you said you graduated in 2022, didn't you? So, brilliant. Make sure you're talking to these because they very much know this experience from the inside out and they're at that different level of preparing. And I've just remembered I tend to talk an awful lot, so I am going to put my phone in front of me so I can keep check on the time, because if I can talk, I will talk. So think about where you are, think about what it is that you want to learn, what you want to understand about today, and if we just so happen to not directly answer one of your questions, please come and talk to us and find out what it is that you need to know. So I'm going to talk a little bit about your degree, some of the implications around the degree that you're doing and things that are considerations for you about preparing you, about an application process, anything that you may need to repeat. If you have a failed module, for example, what does that mean for you? Is there anything that you can do to fix that situation? The different people that are involved in this process and some of the steps that you will need to take. And then what I did is, because clearly I work with an awful lot of training officers in the profession, we had a training opportunity and I sat with them and I said, from a personal perspective, if you could tell potential trainees, potential placement students, one key message, what would you like to tell them? So I've got a little bit of direct quotes immediately from them about what they would like you to know to prepare you for going on placement or making that decision about what you would like. And then very, very, very short little bit about the start to the end as well. So we'll cover a few different things, but first of all, your degree programme. So you'll find that some of these things overlap one another, and that's because they are key concepts in what you're learning. So I'm going to mention some of the things that Vicky has, and no doubt other people will cover some of these things as well. Are you all on an accredited degree? Are there any of you not on an accredited degree? Not on an accredited degree? Okay, well, so as you found out from Vicky's talk earlier, there are those different routes to registration, so well worth pursuing for you. But what can be organised in the background, if you always keep your handbooks, have a file with all your handbooks of every single module you've ever done, make sure you've got a transcript of course you will do, but make sure you have a transcript of all your modules, because what you can do is apply to the IBMS if you did not complete an accredited degree, have your degree assessed. And then what you can do is go to a different university and complete top-up modules until you've gained enough modules and all the correct credits that you would require and discipline-specific knowledge, practical skills, assessments, etc. And then you can apply and potentially go on a placement after your degree. So even if you're not on an accredited degree, there are things that can be done. You just need those conversations to put you in the right ground. It seems, though, that 99% of the room are already on an accredited programme. You very probably already know what the implications of that are. So for us as an academic team, what that means is that we're on a cycle. At maximum, I believe it is, every 5 years, the IBMS, a panel from the IBMS that consists of the IBMS, other academics from other institutes, and somebody from the pathology profession themselves will come to our university. We will have had to have supplied them with thousands of documents, and I mean thousands of documents. I've had to do this, and I've been a panel member as well for accrediting the university. It's a lot of paperwork, but it's gone through with a very, very, very fine-tooth comb. They want to make sure that the quality of the talk content of the programme that you're studying is going to deliver exactly what is needed for your knowledge and understanding and development. That you will be developing those laboratory skills that allow you to become a competent, capable, reliable scientist that can go into a laboratory that will handle those precious patient samples that can't be repeated. A biopsy cannot be repeated if we make an error with it. We've got that opportunity to get data back and get the treatments or the prognosis or the development of monitoring drugs, for example, that's accurate. So everything is looked at, all those essential practical skills. Everybody in your academic team will be active in research as well, so we should be keeping our knowledge on the forefront of whatever our discipline is that we're interested in, and it should all be aligned to professional practice as well. We should be working with our local NHS trusts or whichever laboratories that we do work with, so we're constantly finding out. It's such a lucky position because, as Marianne and Oliver will have heard me say on many times, I am the nosiest person that walks this planet. If I can go and have a good look around a laboratory and go, what's that? What's that? What's this? I am there. Oliver has led me around the histology department with me literally going, what's that? I want to know as much as I can. So I'm really fortunate that each of the academics in your team will be having conversations with practitioners to find out what's the new analyzer that you've got in your department. What does it do? What's the experiment? What's the science behind it? What diseases can we test for on it? So we've got a really broad understanding of the profession and of current research as well. And the IBMS are making very, very, very sure that that is exactly what an accredited programme will be doing. All this is going to come together in a big picture for you to deliver your talks, your theoretical, your conceptual understanding of each of those disciplines, your capability in the laboratory, and I think probably of equal importance out of all of it, yes, you've got to understand your subjects, yes, you've got to be really good in a practical, in a laboratory situation as well, but to be good communicators. And often, how many of you have had to deliver oral presentations just yet? Yeah, it feels like we're just being mean, quite honestly, when we're saying, right, we want 15 minutes from you, there'll be questions and answers, team presentations, individual presentations, but that communication is critical. And it's really critical when you're going into a professional practice where you have to be able to work with your teams as closely, to be as careful as you are when you're dealing with patients' data. So you will have that mix. You will be developing these multiple skills, those transferable skills, your ability to read and interpret data, your communication, developing your written. My written is awful. I can't write essays. And if you were to give me a maths sheet, I would probably have a little cry before I got round to doing maths. I hate maths with a passion. But I'd put me in the lab and I'm there all day. I love my microbiology, the smells, the colours, absolutely everything. It's marvellous. And I can talk all day, as you probably already noticed. But what do we really, really, really want from you? We want your attention to detail. So when you go in for your practical sessions, those reading of the schedules beforehand and any resources that are being provided, because if you think that you may be working as a biomedical scientist in a laboratory all day, every day, what we need, so preparing you to be a placement student and go into practice at a later stage, we need somebody that really understands what that equipment is. What is that piece of equipment? What is the test that it will allow us to perform? What spectrum of different diseases will you be able to identify? And if you're going to be confident of the result that that piece of equipment gives you and that experiment gives you, what are your controls? What's your positive control? What's your negative control? Because you can absolutely guarantee that working as a biomedical scientist, you need positive and negative controls. What about calibration? That piece of equipment that you're using, the pipettes that we use day in, day out, when were they last calibrated? Because delivering 1 microlitre versus 10 microlitres or 0.2 microlitres, that could be critical in an experiment that you're running and patient data that you're getting out. So preparing students for placement, I would say that those laboratory skills are absolutely critical. Pay attention to your schedules and critique them. When you're reading them, interrogate what you're seeing. What's my control? What is the piece of science? What is that science that underpins this experiment? What's the calibration that this piece of machinery would require? Those kind of things will keep you going. And your communication skills. Some of them just feel uncomfortable, but continue to challenge yourself and develop them. So the ones that you dislike the most are possibly some of the ones that you become strongest in because you have no choice but to push yourself into those things. I did not like public speaking. I thoroughly enjoy it now. I don't like maths, I've never liked maths, I never will like maths, but I do have my little handbook that I keep in my lab pocket at all times so I can continually go back to my notebook and not have a nervous breakdown every single time I have to do a single piece of maths. Inside your degree, you will be doing clinical laboratory specialisms. Now, these are really important in terms of your progression to be able to apply for a placement and to be able to progress to complete your registration and potentially then work as a biomedical scientist. So, and these are these subjects that you can see on the screen. So inside your degree programme, all of these clinical specialisms will be being taught. Now, they could have a very different name, in infectious disease and immunology. It could have all sorts of different names. But when the IBMS and the panel come to make sure that we accredit your university, they will be looking to make sure that these clinical specialisms are embedded into your modules. So, and we have a certain amount of information that we're given and we're told that we must have these in. So I know that I must teach my students inside my microbiology module about public health. I know that I must teach them about key pathogens, but nowhere does it tell me that I have to talk about urinary tract infections or the virulence factors of Staphylococcus aureus. It isn't that prescriptive, it stays broad. The IBMS and the panel that assesses the university will make sure that you've got enough depth, enough spread, a lot of scope inside each of those modules, so that each of those clinical laboratory specialisms are covered inside your degree. And you will have the practical skills and you will have been assessed appropriately to make sure that your knowledge and understanding is exactly where it should be. Now, that then means, as I've just said, that the assessments are meaningful. So the IBMS and their panel, they will look at the assessment strategies for your degree programme. They will make sure that it's meaningful. It should almost kind of reinforce the learning that you've had, perhaps increase a skill that you have, and it will give you an overall result. So in those clinical specialisms, I assume you will have had this, but it depends on where you are in your studies, how familiar you are of it. So you may have medical microbiology and 2 assessments in medical microbiology. Both of those assessments must be passed at 40% or higher. So we cannot do an average on a clinical specialism module. So other modules that aren't clinical specialisms we can, and I'm going to give you an example in another area. But again, that preparation for applying for a placement, how are you doing with your modules? Is there a component that you're particularly concerned about, an assessment type that just isn't your thing? They're the things that you need to concentrate on. Talk to your module leaders, see if you can get some preemptive assistance in so that you can go away and try and learn that so you're more comfortable when you walk into that assessment, to make sure you hit that 40% threshold. And then at some point through your degree as well, you will have your final research project. Now, if these modules here, medical microbiology for me is a 20 credit module. The other modules in my degree programme, they're different across universities, they're 20 credits. But a research project module will always be double that. So for me, the research project is a 40 credit module. But again, that preparation, thinking about how you're going to approach your degree, setting yourself up for success, for placement applications, for trainee applications after you've graduated, for progression forwards, knowing that it's the equivalent of 2 modules, it requires the energy. Look, do your reading, make sure you've got that literature in front of you so you understand what it is you're studying for. Again, the experiments. What is the underpinning science beneath those experiments that you will be working on? What's the methodology? What are your controls? Do you need to calibrate things? Because if it's a double-weighted module, it's a really critical module during your degree. So this here is an example of our second year at my university, and we just went, you know what, you want us to teach medical microbiology? We're going to call our module medical microbiology. You've got a clinical specialism that's cell pathology. Yeah, we're going to give you cellular pathology. We've kept it named, but there's a lot of differences. But what that means for us inside our degree, and you need to make sure you understand about your degrees, are where are these clinical specialisms? Where can you not have a component to dip below that 40%? So because that we cannot compensate for, you would have to immediately do a resit in that resit period of time. or you may be looking at the top-up module after you've graduated if you don't pass a module. So you can see here, we have 2 modules that run all year long with our research and analytical methods, and then the HIT module, Haematology, Immunology and Transfusion Science, they run all year long. And then semester 1, Clinical Biochem, Molecular Biology, Med Microbe, Cell Pathology. Those in blue are not the clinical specialisms. So should a student go below the 40% on those modules, we can take a module average. And so long as you're over the 40% overall, we're fine. But in these that are highlighted in red, clinical specialisms, these cannot be averaged out. So that's just my university, but your university has the same system. So in your preparation for progressing through your degree and considering your placement, make sure you understand very well what the assessment strategy is inside each of the modules that you're doing. That will be really valuable. So processes and people. Very much a symbiotic relationship between a big collection of individuals. You will have your academic team, your training coordinator that sits inside your academic team. There will be the training officers in the laboratories themselves. But then, of course, you've got your careers team that you can speak to at the university, any personal acquaintances that you have that may have some inside information for you, interprofessional learning networks or nursing teams. Lots of people can give you information to help you create a really strong application and walk into an interview knowledgeable. And it isn't always about the person that knows absolutely everything. It's about the person that's passionate about what it is that they're applying for as well. That desire to work inside the NHS or working for patients or helping in, developing diagnostic, prognostic tests for patients and making those outcomes better. And then again, it is understanding your university's process. Do you have to submit an expression of interest beforehand? That might just be to give your coordinator an overview of who's likely to be applying and which laboratories they need to approach to try and get you into the laboratory. And a whole succession of different things that will get you to the end of that biomedical science placement. Understanding the process, working with the different people will mean that you have a fantastic picture when you walk into that interview room. Because everybody's shaky in an interview, even if you quite like interviews, you walk in feeling a little bit nervous. Making sure you're prepared, well informed, it's going to put you in the best position possible. And making sure that you have that passion, that desire to really work inside this profession and develop yourself and work to help patients as well. That's all a really critical thing. And I put in red, meeting mentors, because I think personally that this is the most important step in preparing you for a placement, regardless of where you are. Can you potentially meet the students who are currently completing a placement? Can you meet those who have returned to university to finish their final year of studies that have completed that placement? They are a font of knowledge and they can give you the current situation, everything that you need to know fresh, rather than somebody that may have done it a little while ago, or even myself. I cannot call myself biomedical scientist. I have never completed that registration portfolio. I am not HCPC registered. So I can give you a lot of information. I can't give you the feet on the ground information. These guys can. Okay, so those mentors, they are really, really critical for you. Application process. So knowing that process, understanding your assessments, understanding where you are in the process of your degree, the challenges that you may have coming up over this next year. If some of you, how many of you are going into your second year of study now? Yes, quite a lot of you. So recognising exactly where you are. How have I performed so far? Where are my challenges going to be? How can I work to work through those challenges and set myself up into a good position? How do my modules work? That information is useful for you. Go into your careers team to write the best covering letter, the best CV that you possibly can. And I know that we have a talk during the break about interview practice, so that's going to be really helpful. will all get you set up. And picking the brains of those that are doing or have just completed a placement, again, really critical in getting you ready. So one of the things that I say to students during interviews is we cannot promise you a discipline, but if there was a discipline, which one would you like to go into? Because of course I'm expecting everybody to say, microbiology, Claire. Microbiology is the best subject. And I go, yes, you're very wise, you can have a placement. We're popping you into biochem, but microbiology was the right answer. But look at what it is. What's your passion? What are you interested in? There are no guarantees, but it's great to see that enthusiasm about what it is that you would like to do. And then once you have that placement, again, it is not hands-off. It's not just about settling into your studies and completing that second year. That is critical. You must do that. But there are all sorts of different things to be working through. A DBS is going to have to be completed if that hasn't been done so already. Hep B vaccinations, if they haven't been started already. A whole series of things will have to take place. And what I would stress, preparing students for placement, is please get that process going as quickly as possible. The amount of times that there's an unexpected delay and then people get very, very anxious when we're saying to them, we might not be able to start your placements. Until this is put into place, we're going to have to hold you. And of course, nobody wants that. You don't feel nice as that individual going into the placement, knowing that it's caused a little bit of delay. The training officer's waiting to get you in, to start your training programme, etc., and work your way through that plan. So please, please, please be very timely on any of the actions that you may have to get yourself into that placement position. And then, as I said, and I really wanted to reiterate this point, the student mentors, I do think the mentors are really important. Ultimately, those current student placement students, got that the whole way wrong way around, didn't I? Those current placement students are the future practitioners. And those future practitioners are future training officers. So this goes full cycle. So for the student that's just completed or is completing their placement, it's really valuable to be a mentor to the next people coming into your position. It helps reinforce your knowledge, your understanding of what you're doing when you're teaching, when you're verbalising it to somebody else. So if you have that opportunity to be a mentor to somebody, absolutely take that opportunity. It's fantastic for your own development and it looks great on CVs as well. For those of you thinking about the placement but you don't know, for those of you who have secured a placement and you're waiting to go on it, talk to those people, get that mentorship. They're really valuable. They are the future practitioners, they are the future trainers. You will be a part of that cycle yourself. So those students in my university, I'm going to be dragging you back in to do all sorts of different activities with the next batch of students going round. So Oliver, who's coming back into third year, he doesn't know it yet, but I'm about to send him an email saying, will you do this? Can you do that? Can you come in here? Marianne's going to be getting next. We're going to have an interviewing these students. Would you mind having a quick chat with them? So once we've got hold of you, we're probably not letting go of you. We've got use for you for a very long time to come. But it's a great thing to do. Be involved, be active. It helps you and it helps the next one. So, and then I said that I'd spoken to training officers as well. Oh my, I said I'd do this, didn't I? Oh, I have. I am shocking. I've talked far, far too long. I'm already 4 minutes over time. So I've been speaking fast. I'm about to speak really fast now. These are from training officers. These are what I said when I said, please will you tell me from your perspective what you think students considering this should know. If I do talk way too fast, just start waving at me and I'll slow down a little bit. And some of these actually may sound negative, but they are absolutely not. This is reality of working in a laboratory in those real life times. So be prepared for a lack of consistency. We all sit there saying consistency is a great thing. We want consistency of information, of training, of knowledge. But actually the real life is people are on rotas. People go on your annual leave, people may be sick, people doing all sorts of different things. There may be an emergency, a machine might go down. So the thing that you thought you were doing on Monday may not be the thing that you are doing on Monday. It might be something very different. The training officer that you had been working with might need to step away, somebody else may need to step in. the training plan you had. You might just need to come away from what you thought you would be doing in December, because we need a little bit of a shuffle around dependent on staff and depending what's available. So they did say, please be aware of that. One of the critical ones was inform your trainer. I've done, and this is about being proactive. So you owning your placement and keeping your trainers informed. So that lack of consistency, you worked with somebody last week, but now you're working with somebody new the following week. So I did X and Y with Sam last week, but I haven't done Z yet. Fantastic. Immediately that training officer knows exactly what you're comfortable with, but what you need to do next before you could be considered to be allowed to be working on that piece of equipment, etc. Everybody feels really scared when they start at the beginning of their placement, that pressure to be really good, to be really knowledgeable, to look like you know what you're doing. Everybody knows that you don't know what you're doing at the beginning of the placement. Okay, the expectation is the training, the knowledge and understanding will develop over that time. So yes, feel nervous, we all feel nervous, but just understand that your knowledge and understanding will develop over time. And that last one, my point is that it can be quite disappointing at first. I've definitely worked with placement students when I've gone over to visit them in the laboratory, and they've been a little bit like, I'm not sure that this is what I thought it would be, I'm not sure that this is what I want, I'm just not sure. And then I'll go back and visit them in 3 months' time, and there's this confident professional individual walking down the corridor, and they come and grab me and they walk me around the lab for a lab tour. I'm like, who are you? It was suddenly this professional disposition and the knowledge of the equipment that they work in. I've walked in and one of my students been underneath a machine, changing all sorts of tubes and pipes and things that I don't understand. It grows over time. You may feel a little bit of a hesitancy at first when you're not sure what you're doing. When you've got an awful lot of that training, give it time. You will absolutely get that. Right. Oh. So, I'm going to leave some of these slides because I have been utterly predictable and talked for far too long, and I need to hand over. You will have your portfolio to complete. Please feel free to talk to these guys about completing your portfolio. Again, it might not be in an entirely scripted way. You might be working through different components at different times, and the other placement students that you're friends with in different disciplines may be doing it in a very different order to you. Talk to your training officers, they know exactly what they want you to do, when, how, and they will guide you through that process. So, I'm going to leave you there. I think that's the body of the main amount of information that I do want to leave you with, but please come and talk to me about anything and come and talk to any of the speakers this morning. I will hand it over to Oliver and Marianne now before they actually physically throw me off the stage. So, thank you everybody, it will be lovely to talk to you in a little while. Oliver, Marianne, would you like to come up? Apologies for running over, I always do it.
So we're going to be talking about what starting and completing a placement is like, and the highlights and challenges that come along with that.
Okay, so I'm Oliver. I just completed a placement in histology and I'll be going into my final year. Marianne is about to start a placement in microbiology, and sadly Ellie wasn't able to be here today, but she had just finished her placement and also her study, and now she's going to be band 5 biomedical scientist in microbiology.
So I'm going to start us off. I'm currently just finished my second year of biomedical science, and I'm going to start my placement on Monday in microbiology. So I'm going to run through the application process, how to prepare for the placement, and then a few things I'm excited and nervous for. So starting off the application process, you will have to write a CV and a cover letter just like you would for any kind of job. But this one differs as it has to highlight your scientific and clinical skills. So things that you've learned in university in a lab already, you can make a list of them and add it on. And also demonstrating your commitment to patient care. One thing that you'll hear all the time is that it's not just a test tube. Every single test tube is a person and you're directly impacting them, like any action that you do can directly impact this person. So really just demonstrating your understanding of that is really important. And mentioning any other experiences you have, as most students have hospitality jobs or retail jobs, like these skills can be transferable, such as hygiene, communication, working as a team, working under pressure, just all transferable skills like that. And then of course it's the dreaded interview. This is the most daunting part of the process for many people. Of course I was also very nervous for it, but it's really just a chance for the panel to get to know you as a person and making sure you're in it for the right reasons, for the right motivations, demonstrating your experience firsthand to the panel, and really making sure that you're familiar with the IBMS and HCPC standards are really important. I also found printing out the job description and reading these, really just familiarising yourself with the job itself, preparing questions, just doing as much preparation as you possibly can so that you feel confident to walk into this interview and just give it your all. Yeah, so just being yourself. Don't be afraid to ask questions at the end as well. Just try and demonstrate your passion for biomedical science as much as you can. Once you get offered the job, there's many things that you can do from December to September, and this feels like a long time, but it does go by really quick. I feel like Claire was just telling me that I got a placement and now I'm starting on Monday, so it's absolutely insane how fast it's gone. Straight away I got to attend a lab tour, and I found this very, very interesting and very, very helpful, as I could literally see exactly where I was going to work. So that was really nice, and I got to speak to the current microbiology student, the one that I'd be replacing, and I sent her like a million emails, so many questions. She was really nice, answered all my questions, so definitely would recommend reaching out to the current placement students if you have the opportunity. So keep familiarising yourself with the job itself, your chosen discipline. It might not be the one that you chose, but I'm very, very happy that I got microbiology. And then the most important thing is reflecting on your academic progress. And one weakness I have is exams. So I just made sure that I was staying on top of my studies, doing as much work as possible, identifying weaker areas, really focusing on your lab stuff, practicing for the portfolio by making little notes in the lab, which is what you're going to need to do in the placement, but Oliver will speak more about that. Definitely keeping with your occupational health and your vaccinations, start doing that early because it saves a lot of stress later on the road, definitely speaking from experience. And then of course there's the NHS e-learning modules, and then mentally preparing yourself is also really important. Reading the hospital's policies, such as the dress code, the code of conduct, all that good stuff. And these are a few things that I'm excited and nervous for. I'm very excited for my placement, as I'm interested to see like how I can apply my skills that I've learned in university to the lab, as university labs and hospital labs are very different. But also I'm quite nervous for adjusting to the fast-paced environment. Like, it's a real life lab, it's not a university one. These are real patients. But I know that I will probably make a few mistakes, but as long as I just ask questions, recognising the scope of practice, which is also really, really important, remembering all the health and safety rules, speaking up when I need it, as this is the scope of practice again, and recognising that I have a big responsibility. I've committed to the responsibility of real life patients and everyone that I will be working with. So that's everything that I have to say. I'm going to pass you on to Oliver, but thank you for listening to me.
Hello, it's me again. So yeah, I'll be talking about starting a placement, how I felt doing that, and then I'll be talking about what I was doing, things that I enjoyed, my highlights, and then also I'll be giving a bit of advice on the actual portfolio. and what I found to be quite useful and the feedback that I got. Okay, so it's a year-long thing, or about 8 months for me, but it can be quite scary because you're going to be doing your portfolio, but you're also working in a hospital, and normally it's a fast-paced, quite stressful environment. But I can assure everyone who's doing a placement that it's a really good time, and you learn some really, really cool things. I found that all the people there were really supportive for me. They'd answer questions for me, and they're genuinely there to try and help you because they understand, it's a new thing for you. And that's shown by, literally on your first day, you get someone who you're buddied up with for a bit, and that's the same thing for all your different roles. So every different role that I was doing, I had somebody that was there to help me and make sure that I was doing it all right. And so I did cellular pathology, which in my opinion is the best discipline. And that's in York Hospital. And there is where I learned to do some really cool techniques and what I believe to be like very key things for my line of work that I want to do in the future. Cellular pathology, for reference, is the diagnostic medical service thing. Looks at different cells and different tissues, and that's done at a microscopic level. Mostly done by pathologists, but there are different areas that you can go with the accredited degree. Some things I did, so on the left there is a section that I'm very, very proud to have done, and that's just a blood vessel. So I did like different histological slides using microtomes. If you guys have walked around, you'll see those things that just like moving by themselves. So, all sorts of interesting techniques and equipment. Special stains is another thing that I did. And, when the pathologists need different things to help them try and get a diagnosis, they'd come to me or they'd come to someone else. Oliver, can you do a Grocott stain if looking for a fungi, for example? And, that's very cool. You're working with loads of different things. I believe I did a fair bit of staining. I don't know if it's the same for your guys' degrees, but there's loads of different stains. So it's nice to see that kind of application into actual NHS setting. And then there's also quality control. So on that far slide, you can see there's like the tissue and then there's the stain, but it's not all fully there. So it's just making sure that the things that you do are done to a high enough level, which will help the patient kind of sample specimen for that. The portfolio itself, so it's 30 pieces of work, and then you've got your lab tour as well. There's a lot, there's a lot of different parts of it. I found it to be somewhat stressful to deal with that because obviously you've got to balance doing this portfolio. You've got to actually do some other bits of work, and then also I had a job as well. So trying to balance that was quite interesting, but I survived. But it's very satisfying. It's very satisfying working in a lab and knowing that the stuff that you do is helping people out. Advice that I was given that I shared to you guys from my training officer: take your time. You've got a long time to do it. I was thinking I'll just rush through this and be over and done with, but I found that I was not producing like amazing pieces of work. So, take your time with it, enjoy the experience. Everyone wants to help you, so make sure you ask questions, as mentioned earlier. I also had variations with my work, so the different training officers and the examiners don't want to just read essays. I'm not a great writer, but essays are somewhat decent work. So PowerPoints, posters, things like that. That's what I did to vary it. And then my final part, which, as mentioned earlier about the tour, the examiners aren't here to scare you. They're generally interested to just know what's going on, so don't feel too pressured with that. I've got a few highlights. One of the main ones for me was the opportunities that it gave me. So it's given me opportunities to speak here, attend different events. I also am now able to work there as at the department that I was in as a MLA, so medical lab assistant. which is quite nice. It's been a nice kind of summer job. It's really nice to keep working and working with these people. And they are lovely people. I've somehow ended up playing tennis with one of them. Don't know how. But, you know, there's loads of different cool people that you meet. And then something that I'm sure we can all agree, improving people's lives. That's why we're here, that's what we like to do. And doing the work and knowing that it helps is, it feels pretty good. So those are some of my highlights. I presume it's just...
Yeah, so if you click on, so Ellie couldn't be here today. So what she has done is she's embedded some audio into the next slide, so she's still got to give you the information. So Ellie completed her placement, she completed her final year of her degree, and now she's working as a Band 5 biomedical scientist in a microbiology department, probably only a 30-minute drive away from where we are today. So that she's embedded audio into the next slide. So if you click onto the next ones.
So it works.
Hello, I am Ellie. I am a Pro student in York St John University, and I completed my placement in microbiology in 2023. Today I will be discussing 3 really core aspects of completing a placement, which is the multidisciplinary clinical team and what is meant by that, returning to university, the challenges and advice I have, and career ambitions and what I'm actually doing now. The multidisciplinary team and environment is something you will absolutely experience as a placement student, and that involves a range of different staffing groups and individuals such as placement students, medical laboratory assistants, associate practitioners, biomedical scientists such as myself, nurses and consultants who are the patient-facing members of staff involved in patient care. For example, nurses may use phone calls to discuss testing results and sample investigations, and consultants may conduct ward rounds in order to assess patient care and offer specific clinical advice to other clinicians involved directly in that patient care pathway. In terms of the day in the life of a placement student, as I previously said, I completed my placement experience in the microbiology department of York Teaching Hospital, and that experience gave me absolutely invaluable skills and understanding into what it means to be a biomedical scientist, and these are skills I still carry forward with me as a biomedical scientist to this day. Here I have 5 really vital images that for me really sum up what it means to be a placement student. Irrespective of what department you rotate around, you will absolutely learn the importance of health and safety in practice, and actually practicing safely for yourself and others autonomously. As well as this, you will also learn the importance of traceability and patient sample processing, and this isn't just with confidential patient information, but actually with lab labelling, which is why in the image you can see that we use anonymised barcodes, which are anonymised to the patient, but unique to the patient, and these are used in all sample processing pathways. More specific to microbiology, here we have examples of one of the main investigations in microbiology, which is uromicroscopy and culture, assessing patients with urinary tract infections, as well as common samples in microbiology practice, for example, sputum samples is labelled in the image, and the volume of sample investigations. There are days where it's going to be busier and quieter, and for me that was a really core aspect of being a placement student, in that I'm able to discern what to do when it is busier and how to handle myself appropriately. In terms of returning to university, I found my experience really smooth and such a smooth transition, and that was really for me because of the endless support I received from university lecturers and supervisors such as Claire. From my experience, I really found that I could really reflect on my return to university, and from this I've actually gathered 5 really key take-home messages that for me I feel are really important to anybody who may be struggling with the thought of returning to university following completing a placement. Take your time. It is perfectly fine to feel overwhelmed. You are not expected to know everything straight away, and those first few weeks are just about settling in. Reach out for support if you need it. And understand your strengths and weaknesses and use them for your advantage to improve in yourself. Prioritise your well-being. Make sure you're doing things that you like to do to de-stress and unwind away from academia. And most importantly for me, remember why you're here. When things get tough, that why will pull you forwards. And for me, I like to ask myself, why am I doing this? Where do I see myself in 5 years? Where do I want to be? What do I want to achieve? And that for me is something that really helped me. And in terms of what I'm doing now, I'm actually a Band 5 biomedical scientist practicing safely, autonomously and confidently in the microbiology department of Queen's Hospital Burton or QHB. The experience I had in York really gave me those invaluable, insightful skills into being a biomedical scientist, and like I say, completing a placement was one of the best things I did for myself. And if there is absolutely one thing I can encourage you to do at the very bare minimum, is to consider your options and really consider completing a placement, because it's something that opens endless amount of doors, both in terms of career prospects but also research prospects for yourself, and it's something that you will absolutely not regret. Thank you very much, everybody.
Do you want to just come to the last slide, Maria?
Thank you so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed our talk. Do I find this if you have any questions?
Thank you very much. So that puts us on to our last speaker for, I keep wanting to say this morning, I'm a little bit displaced, but for this afternoon. So we have Manfred joining us, and then after that we will do a quick 5 minutes of questions for anybody who's done the talking so far, and we have some information about interviews, and we will have a break as well. Hello Manfred, it's really nice to meet you.
You too.
Hi. So it's literally, it's these buttons here. This laptop we're not using, that doesn't belong to us, but the screen's in use.
Lovely. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'd just like to say to you guys, fantastic job, well done. I know it's not the easiest to come up here and speak, and you did a great job, but what you said, more importantly, was really, really helpful. Not for me, but for the students we have, they ask all those questions, and we give them all those answers, and they still have those questions again. But it's good to say take that time. I think that's really important. Okay, I am here to see, hopefully give you some job tips. Have we got any graduates in the room? A few. Okay, but the rest of you, this would be good for any of you. So we're going to start off with a Congress conundrum. Rearrange the letters to form a relevant word, and your clue is useful in advance of applying for a job. So your clue is useful in advance of applying for a job. Think about your answer. We're going to give you the 30 seconds, but here we go. I hope you're all thinking. Some of you may look as if you've got it. Don't shout out just yet. We're going to, yeah, I like it. Go with the music. I can hear some people. What's the shout out?
Prepare.
Prepare. Fantastic. If nothing else from this session, I want you to remember that word. Okay? Got it? What's the word?
Prepare.
Fantastic. And there it is. You're absolutely right. The reason why I want you to remember that word is because some of the things that these guys have just said. You will need perseverance. It can be a long haul. And if this is what you want to do, hang on in there. It's worth it, I would say. I'm biased. But if you want to do it, really do hang on in there. Do your research. Talk to people, especially today. You guys are here today. Talk to as many people as you can. But of course, talk to your friends, colleagues, university links, and get some information. What these guys said today was really valuable. So the fact that you've heard it is really good. Your experience, if you can use your lab experience, have a placement here, fantastic. But not everyone gets that opportunity. So what I would say is, again, go on whatever you can to try and get that element of experience, from social media to talking to previous students if you haven't had that chance, and getting their experience and understanding. If you've done a project, and I think most of you through a graduate scheme would have done a project, research it, read about it, find out more about it, because if you're ever asked, this is about job applications, and if you're ever asked, what we don't want to hear is that, yeah, I did this project in the first year and I can't really remember, but yeah, it was a project. No, we don't want to hear that. We want to hear what it was, how you did it, what went wrong, what you do in a new scenario if you had to do it again, and what you could do to improve. Okay? Your attitude. And I know this sounds a bit patronising, but we want to see your best selves. And the number of interviews where I've seen people who are maybe not their best selves is not great. So that doesn't end well. So we want to see your best self, okay? But you will need resilience. If you haven't got it already, then you need some coping strategies on what you would do in the event, because you're right. It's a high-paced environment and there are lots of stressors. So you need to have that resilience and prove that you can use it. And also want to ask you to is explore. So it's not just hospital labs. Hospital labs might be the thing, but it might not be for you. So think about other options. Veterinary labs, food and water, microbiology is in lots of different ones, but you've got histo and blood sciences and so on. And commercial labs. You might work for a commercial company or, for example, a makeup company. So there are lots of different avenues. Explore the options that you have so that you can see what there is to do. Hopefully you will have seen one of these. This is a person specification. And what we want you to do is try and evidence every item in the essential box. And if you can evidence any of the ones in the desirable box, that's even better. But what we don't want to see is this, because I don't want to go to Specsavers. So think about your layout, think about bullet points and subsections and formatting, so that it makes it easier for this person on this side to get all the information they need very easily and quickly. We don't want lots of pretty colours and pictures though, so don't over-format, don't overthink it, but yeah, let's make it sensible and easy to read. So, things that will give evidence for meeting the criteria. No long rambling essays, Oliver, you're okay for that one. Spelling and grammar, check, check, check. Get someone else to check, get your dog to check. And then personal interests and activities that showcase you and highlight your skills. And then maybe a short summary about why you think you're suitable. So, did you know that as a population, the scientists in this population form less than 1% of the working population? So you are going to be joining a very exclusive club, the less than 1% club. And therefore, it's super competitive because there are a lot of you out there. And what we want to do is give you the best opportunity to join that club. So, first question in this. And I see these words a lot in CVs, in applications. Hardworking, team player, keen, eager, passionate. What do they mean? A kind of rhetorical question, but go for it.
I'm not sure what they mean, but when you say that located to these words, you can give an example.
You could give an example, but just using the words by themselves, for me, is a bit meaningless, because if I don't put that word, does that mean I'm not hardworking? So what's more important is to use a metric, okay? And I'm going to come to metrics in a little while, but keep that thought. Who here has used one of these AI systems? Claire, you haven't used one? Oh, okay. Who hasn't used one? Be honest. Really? You should. But should we use it in an application scenario? Oh, there's some nods of no. Anyone with a yes? Oh, there's a yes. Oh, a few yeses. Okay. Well, these are the downsides of using AI. Okay, and they are quite obvious. But quite a few places, including universities, have checking systems now so that they can detect the use of AI. So please don't use it if it's something that is important and they're going to be marked on or going to be judged on. I reviewed some CVs recently for an application, and in the little statement area where people said, you know, I've done this and that, there were 2 prompts, 2 watermarks that said ChatGPT in the statement that I received that I was reviewing to shortlist or not. What do you think happened to that application? Yeah, exactly. Straight in the reject pile. Because that shows me they didn't have any attention to detail. Yeah, so it's important. So if you're going to use it as a tool, okay, but don't make it exclusive and use your own work as a primary source. Yeah, and check your work. Okay, this whole process of applications is a bit like a game of Guess Who. People on this side of the fence are trying to determine who the best person is for the job, who will fit the department, who will meet all the skills, who can meet all the essential criteria. And in a way, the applicant is also trying to see if the place fits their needs. Because you might go to a place and you say, yeah, the people are lovely, or not sure about that lot. I don't know if I want to work there. So it's on both ways. But it's not a game, and it's not just down to feelings, because there's usually some form of scoring system. And in the organisation that I work with, West London Pathology, we will use the scoring system across different parts of the application process. Application, interview, test, CPD, and other. We use a 1 to 4 scoring, and if you score 1s and 2s, you're not going to be successful. 2s and 3s, you might have a chance, depending on who your competition is, but what we're looking for is 3s and 4s. Good answers and comprehensive answers. So what we want you to do is brush up on those and make sure you're ready to go. If you do get an interview, pre-interview, try and contact the lead interviewer. Now, you may not get a response, be aware of that, but it's useful, it's professional to say, yeah, I'm ready to come to the interview. Would it be possible to have a look round? Because it's kind of like a pre-interview thing where you can say, oh, they do this and that, and it might give you the opportunity to ask some questions. But a lot of this coming back to that word, what was that word at the beginning?
Prepare.
I think you're going to have to be stronger than that. Prepare. Is that research? You should be researching, as you said, researching about the organisation, about the department, what they do and how they do it. When you turn up for that interview, and I have actually seen a number 8 today, this morning, as I came from the station, so please don't come as number 8. But what we're thinking about is your brand, what you look like, how you represent yourself, back to that self, that word, and who you are every day. And we want you to show up in your best self, okay? And you're right to be nervous for the interview. Marie? Thanks, Marie. But why are you nervous? Because you're passionate about this, because you want it so badly, you don't want to fail, you don't want to, let yourself down, let other people down. So use those thoughts and emotions to make the most of your interview. Yeah, practice. The more you practice, the more confidence you'll be. The more you talk to people, the more confident you'll be. And hopefully when you get to that interview, you'll perform a bit better. Those can be a good thing, and you need to utilise them in the right way. So practice. The format of the interview is fairly standard in most organisations. Some questions, there may be some spot tests, some written answers potentially, might be multiple choice, or any of the others may be possible. And they should give that to you up in advance so you know what you're up against. So then you can practice. Okay? And the subject material will be a host range of different things, from quality to safety to what you've done. But hopefully, the first question will be a kind of open question, where they're going to be kind of just get you settled in, and it might be something like, tell us about yourself, about your project, what you're proud of, something like that. And that's quite a nice opener. This is where you get the chance to shout about yourself. Tell everyone about everything, because in that room, you are the only person that's going to speak for you. There's no one else there to do it. Even if you're an internal candidate, the panel are going to look at you and they can only take your answers. So this is your time to shout. Okay? Later on in the interview, you may have a closed question, a technical question, where they're looking for facts and details and specifics and SOPs. And that's not a time to shout about yourself. That's about giving facts. Bang, bang, bang. Yeah? When you get the questions, listen carefully and clarify if you need to. This question, tell us when you found an error, what did you do, who did you tell, what was the next step, and how was it finalised? That's actually 5 questions in one. So it's a bit of a cheat, but sometimes people use it to see if you can remember what you're doing. So this is your chance to say, okay, answer, but check for completion. If you didn't remember before, oh, have I managed to answer all of that? Did I miss something out? The interview will hopefully tell you. Think about the follow-on questions as well. What are they going to ask you next? Or they may prompt you to say, can you tell me a bit more about that aspect? There are a couple of frameworks that are kind of useful to hang your answers onto, like a coat hanger. So, for example, this one's skills, attitude, knowledge, experience. I was taught how to perform the assay, and although the QC failed, I was determined to find out why. I researched troubleshooting, asked my supervisor, and from this I learned about pipetting technique and so on and so forth. Okay. The other framework is STAR. Situation. I had a very angry customer on the phone. So if you haven't got lab experience, this is a good one if some of you work in retail or as another job. And the same things will apply, so you can transfer these to another situation. I apologise, always good. Need to refer, but I'm going to do some digging around and investigate. I couldn't find the details, but I told my manager, and then my manager took the information, spoke to the person, and gave them a time frame to delivery. Yeah. So use your skills. If you don't have the lab experience, use them in other places. Here's another question. Tell me about a time you had a high workload and what happened. I had loads of work and I worked extra hard and finished. What does that tell me? That if I push you hard enough, you'll work a bit harder. Doesn't really give it. We're back to the metrics. This is where it comes in. So you explain the situation a bit more and give it some flesh to that initial question. I was told that my colleague was sick, prioritised the most important work that could be completed. I explained to my senior what I was doing, asked if that was okay, asked for support. I told them what I thought was achievable, and then suggested some possible options. So that tells me that this person is capable, they know their scope of practice, they're asking for approval but offering some options. They could work independently, they're resilient because they're coping with the situation, and they are hopefully cool, calm and in control. Much more useful than just saying, I'm hardworking. Yeah? This is your time, as I say, to blow your own trumpet. Okay? Maybe not to say, I rule the world. Okay? But maybe I'm part of the team, I performed this part of the work, I raised the change request, made the suggestion. And again, those metrics, if you can substantiate them, they're even more useful. So our department does X, fine, but we improved by 10%. That's useful to know. The turnaround time improved, or the process improvement that we worked on to reduce the repeat samples over 3 months worked. Yeah, so there's more important. But at all times we want you to be professional. In 2 interviews I held recently, someone said, oh, they didn't say Manfred is rubbish, but they threw someone under the bus, and I thought, that's not good. There's a better way of saying it if you have to try and highlight your skills, and that would be, I supported Manfred. We're training to improve his speed, and talking of which I should crack on. So there may be some questions that you don't know. Be honest. Don't try and give some I was going to say another word there, but don't give some other answer that is not useful. I'm sorry, I don't know, but I would check, I would ask, I'll look that up, or can you tell me? Or what are you looking for exactly? And that shows that you've got a learning attitude. Questions to ask the panel or not? Any thoughts? Should you ask the panel this? Sure. I would say no, because, back to your research, you should have found this out from your job ad, from the person's spec, from the digging around you did on their website. Yeah? But if you do need to ask questions, then fine. But I think there are more useful questions to ask, and that's the kind of thing that isn't necessarily written down in a person's spec or a job description. I have an interest, could I do this, could I do a portfolio or an MSc, for example. And at that point, we hope that you'll be hired. But it's not over yet. And I think some things that, thank you, Marianne and Oliver covered were things like occupational health clearance. But if you're in a job, you might have references and checks and TBS checks. So it's important to get all that stuff done. But again, this boils back down to who you are. So make sure you are at the best of your ability. Think about notice period and your leave that you might have in your current job, start dates, completion of your current role, and prep for your new role. I'm not sure about millionaire, but you'll certainly earn a salary, okay? But that's the good part. The flip side of that is you might hear this. And there are a variety of reasons why you might not be successful. Think about yourself and your performance and what you did and how you could improve. But we're not going to let it stop there. We're going to ask for feedback. And if you get feedback, then use that feedback. Change back to what you are. Change all your answers, what you're doing and how you do it, so that we change that message and we get this answer. Yeah? Some observations about people doing maybe the wrong thing in the wrong time. And again, thinking about preparation, back to that word. We're looking for authentic, genuine, people with character. If you think about what the interviews are looking for and try and deliver that, then that might help. But we want you to stand out and be yourself as well. Use the IBMS website. There is a ton of information there, depending on what your level is and where you are in that career journey. There's a whole host of information about the pathways you could take. The 3 golden rules of job application, though, are, what was that word again? So, talk to the others and research, and again, practice and improve you. I hope that I've addressed that title slide, but if there are any quick questions, then I'll be around, or you can ask now. Everyone's stunned into silence. They want the millionaire, obviously. That's fine. Thank you very much, everyone.
As you know, we are running over, so please feel free to do whatever you need to do now. There are toilets outside to the left, there's a water dispenser outside to the right. Everybody that has talked to Vicky, who was our first presenter earlier, has had to leave for another session. So if you do have questions between us, we will be able to answer. Do you have anything that you would like to ask any of us now? Any questions for the moment about anything we've discussed? No, not for the moment, okay. Well, we do have somebody coming up to talk to you a little bit more about interviews and career progression, so feel free, but this is the break and we will start properly again at 2 o'clock. Sorry, no, this is my whole thing about not understanding the times today, 3 o'clock.